Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up in our news tonight.
The former Prime Minister weighs in on the marijuana debate. How a cabinet minister feels about that.
Mrs. Menace comes to the defense of Miriam Emanuel after social media backlash.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Georgie Bain, topping news tonight. The Cabinet Office has announced that Her Excellency Governor General Dame Marguerite Pinlane will be demitting office on June 28th. Dame Marguerite served as Governor General from July 7, 2014. Former Ambassador Cornelius A. Smith will be appointed as the next Governor General of the Bahamas with effect June 28, 2019. Cabinet said in a statement, Smith is a committed, civic-minded individual who has for more than half a century provided leadership to the Bahamian community and social and civic organizations. A community and political activist from the 70s, he is the founding member of the governing political party. Smith has served to the Bahamian people as a senior cabinet member and the ambassador and permanent representative to the Organization of American States. Smith will be the 10th Bahamian to hold the office of Governor General. In other news, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram has come out in support of the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes, urging the government to legalize it. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Legal Affairs applauded Ingram for chiming in, saying that more Bahamians need to have their voices heard on the issue as well. Our Kyle Joaquin reports.
They're using it in the schools. I'm not saying that that is a reason to legalize, but they're doing it. And we have to deal with it.
State Minister for Legal Affairs Ellsworth Johnson said now is the time for the country to decide its position on marijuana, both for recreational use and medicinal purposes. His comments come one day after former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram came out in support of the legalization of marijuana for medicinal use, telling the Nassau Guardian, the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes has been, generally speaking, established to the satisfaction of many persons, including myself as a non-medical person.
The reality is around the world, a lot of states are bringing on medicinal marijuana. A lot of states are decriminalizing. I don't smoke. I don't intend to smoke. But it's something that we cannot avoid.
The government established a marijuana commission last year that was recently granted more time to carry out its study and compile a report to present to the government. The Rastafarian community has since threatened to sue government over its right to use marijuana as a religious sacrament. Ingram agreed with the establishment of the commission and pointed to changes that he feels should be made, saying too many young people are getting criminal records for small quantities of marijuana, and we have to be able to come to sense with that. Johnson, an attorney, agreed, saying it's always been an issue for magistrates.
Whether or not they were to criminalize them, so you had magistrates sending them for counseling to try and avoid the whole specter of a conviction, because you would have had, once they have that conviction, it really causes them some difficulty in how they would then maneuver for the rest of their life. And I think the world is now having to grapple and deal with these issues.
But Johnson said he's not lobbying for any side, as he is a part of cabinet. He said while there are benefits, there are also downsides.
And I think we have to look at it holistically and then determine where we should go. But I know that I have persons in my community, very well-thinking people, who would have used at one time, and they find themselves in a state where they can't participate in the society, and we have to address that.
Now, as we await the findings of the Marijuana Commission, Johnson encourages all Bahamians to do just as the former Prime Minister did, which is jump in on the discussion. Reporting for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, the wife of the Prime Minister, Patricia, Menace, is weighing in on the criticism Miriam Emanuel has received since stumbling on her words in the House of Assembly. Menace said everyone makes mistakes and the criticism was hard to hear. Our Jillian Gray reports.
While Mrs. Menace said the public's comments about Miriam Emanuel were disheartening, she said she was most appalled by the comments coming from journalists.
So for people who are in the forefront, who in media houses, to have negative say, I think that's what I found appalling. And I say to them that their day gonna come. because we all live in glass houses, and so we shouldn't throw stones.
While contributing to the budget debate last week, Emanuel stumbled several times when trying to say $7.41 million. This set off a firestorm on social media, with some questioning whether she adequately prepared for her contribution and whether she is fit to serve in Parliament. The Michael MP said she was too excited and chalked up the backlash as being part of the political arena. Menace insisted that the budget blunder was human error, which she says everyone has from time to time.
I mean, the public can have their say, but when journalists who know that they have blunders themselves, maybe not as big, but we all have blunders. Sometimes we get nervous and we just can't get out our words.
Emanuel told the Nassau Guardian she is certain that this won't be the last time she will make a mistake. Meanwhile, Menace said despite the strong criticism, she believes Emanuel will continue to endure.
It takes courage just to run in this parliament, or to put yourself out. To be a leader, it means putting yourself out. And when you put yourself out, you expect some criticism. So I'm certain she'll survive this and do well.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
The National Insurance Board is owed up to $17 million in contributions from employers who have failed to keep up to date with their employees' contribution. That's according to Minister of National Insurance Brensel Rule, who today insisted that the Menace administration is set to launch a crackdown on those employers. Our Jasmine Brown tells us more.
Last look I had at large employers who owed NIB, I think the amount was someplace between $14 million and $17 million owed to NIB by large companies. That $14 to $17 million. Imagine that, Mr. Speaker. Think of the number of employees that will not benefit because their employer did not make a contribution to NIB on their behalf.
During its contribution to the budget debate, Roll said unpaid NIB contributions is not a new problem. Non-payment of employee contributions is an offense under the National Insurance Board Act, liable to a minimum of 6 months in prison or a fine of $1,000 or both, to a maximum of 12 months in prison or a fine of $2,500 or both. The National Insurance Minister said while millions are still owed, collections are getting better thanks to the work done by NIB's compliance department.
We want to pursue the non-compliant employees, especially those with large arrears.
As for recent collections, Roll cited a recent audit which discovered that contribution revenue intake was $283 million in 2018. However, he says more was paid out than was collected.
That may sound like a lot of money. However, when you post that against the benefit payouts by NIB in 2018, which is $292 million, you see the direction upon which we're headed. We collected $283 million. We paid out $292 million in 2018.
Roll noted that employers aren't the only offenders. As he said, those who are self-employed also need to pay their contributions. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Operation Poseidon Purge, a partnership between the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Defense Force, and law enforcement from the United States, led to the arrest of 24 persons in Bimini facing various charges, including the possession of dangerous drugs. 2 of those persons were charged today. Drug enforcement officers brought husband and wife duo, 36-year-old Vaccaro Poitier and Jonisha Poitier of Alistown, Bimini, before the magistrate's court to face 1 count of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. According to police reports, shortly after 4 a.m., Operation Poseidon Purge conducted a search of a home in Alistown, North Bimini, and recovered 1 plastic package of suspected cocaine. The suspected cocaine weighed in at a total of 2.8 pounds and has an estimated street value of $18,000. The pair pled not guilty before Magistrate Shubusola Swain. They were denied bail and will return to court on August 27th. The pair has been remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Well, police have taken 3 men into custody in connection with the stabbing death of a juvenile male. According to reports, the stabbing incident happened outside a business on Peach Street after 1 o'clock this morning. When officers arrived on the scene, paramedics were reportedly rendering medical assistance to the victim, who was stabbed in the upper body. He was transported to the Rand Memorial Hospital, where he later died. This latest incident brings the country's murder count for the year to 40. It comes 2 days after a man was shot and killed Saturday morning while sleeping in a bedroom at a home in Millennium Gardens. Well, Public Service Minister Brenzel Roll also giving an update on the employment numbers in the public service sector. Roll telling parliamentarians today that over the last year, there have been about 1,217 re-employments and 53 re-engagements on contract. In addition, those figures, Roll said that he gave these employment stats.
Today, there has been completion of 336 new appointments on temporary month-to-month terms on 12 months probation, 249 appointments to the permanent and pensionable establishments, 422 confirmation and appointments, 1,217 reemployment.
As it relates to promotions, he said 383 promotions have been processed. In addition to that, he said that 5,700 matters have been processed and completed.
Last year, the FNM government promoted nearly 1,300 hard-working public officers within the administration's first year. A number, Cat Island, which more than doubled the amount accomplished by the previous administration.
Well, still to come in our news, the Office of the Spouse focuses its attention on female students. Stay with us.